Today, we're going to pull back the curtain on something that shapes our politicians way before we ever see their names on a ballot. We're talking about the hidden filters, the invisible gates that quietly select for a very specific kind of person. And it's probably not the kind of person you're picturing. I mean, you've heard this a million times, right? It's always asked with this mix of frustration, maybe even anger, this feeling that the whole system is broken. And look, that feeling, totally valid. But what if the question itself is kind of pointing us in the wrong direction? So let's try something different. Instead of pointing fingers at the politicians and asking, what's wrong with these people, let's zoom out. Let's look at the actual machine that creates them. We're going to shift from just being frustrated to actually trying to diagnose the problem. So this, right here, this is the question we're really going to dig into. And a couple of words are super important here. Quietly and easiest. This isn't about some grand conspiracy, okay? It's about the subtle, almost invisible pressures that determine who even considers running for office in the first place. You know, we usually think of the election itself as the main event, right? The big filter. But honestly, that's just the last step in a very long process. By the time you and I get to the ballot box, the field of candidates has already been shrunk down a lot. And here's the thing that's so crucial to get. The biggest filter isn't step 2 or step 3. It's not the party picking a candidate, and it's not us voting. Nope. It all happens right at the very beginning, at step 1. That first fundamental decision a person makes, can I actually do this? Is this a life I can even take on? That decision is shaped less by big ideas and passion, and way more by just day-to-day real-world stuff. So what are we talking about here? What are these hurdles? Well, you're not going to find them in any official job description. But ask anyone who's been around politics and they'll tell you. These are the unwritten rules, the real-world demands of what the job is actually like. Just think about it for a second. This isn't just about working long hours. It's about having zero predictability in your life. The constant need to just drop everything, your family, your plans, to be somewhere else at a moment's notice. That isn't a rare thing. That's the norm. And right away, that simple fact acts as a massive filter. And this is the heart of the problem, right? The very first, and you could argue the most important filter for becoming a politician has almost nothing to do with how smart you are, how passionate you are, or how much you want to serve your community. It comes down to one thing, your life circumstances. Can your personal life handle this kind of chaos? Okay, so let's get practical. How does this actually play out in the real world? Who finds it easier to say yes, and who just quietly steps back? You can pretty much see 2 different profiles emerge. So on one side, you've got people whose lives can kind of absorb the shock. Maybe they have fewer family duties or a partner who can pick up all the slack. But on the other side, you've got people with young kids or aging parents they need to care for. Or maybe they just have a career that needs them to be predictable. And the key thing here is, it's not about one group being better or more talented. It's just that for the second group, the price of entry is way, way higher. So they don't get angry and quit. They just quietly opt out. Not because they don't care, but because they literally can't. And all of this creates this really subtle but super powerful trap. Let's call it the availability trap. It's this weird, flawed logic where the system starts to confuse a simple, practical advantage, being available, with some kind of moral or professional strength. So think about this. When being able to show up anytime, anywhere at the drop of a hat, when that becomes the unwritten price of admission, what do you think happens then? Well, it starts to get mistaken for commitment. The person who can always stay late for that meeting, they're seen as more dedicated. The one who can jump on a plane with zero notice, they're the serious one. Being available starts to look like being committed. Let's actually put a name on this: availability bias. It's this quiet little assumption that just grows and grows. And over time, it totally shapes who gets a tap on the shoulder, who gets mentored, who people think of as a good fit for the next step up. It takes a simple circumstance, I can be here all the time, and wrongly labels it as a character trait. I am more committed than you. Now, what's really important to understand is that this doesn't need some secret cabal of people in a back room deciding who gets to play. It's not a conspiracy theory, it's just what happens. It's the natural result of the incentives that are built right into the way the system works. There's this great line that just nails it. A system, it doesn't have opinions. It doesn't try to convince you of anything. It just rewards some things and, well, makes other things harder. And so people either change their behavior to fit or they get out of the way. The system isn't judging anyone, it's just selecting. And that brings us to a kind of uncomfortable idea. What if the reason we're so frustrated with the politicians we get isn't because the system is broken? What if the system is working exactly as it's designed to, and it's just designed to select for the very people we find so frustrating?
So where does that leave us? What's the main takeaway here? It's actually pretty straightforward. If you don't like the results you're getting from a system, just complaining about the people in it won't change a thing. You have to go deeper. You have to look at the system itself and ask, what is this thing quietly rewarding?
And that, of course, leaves us with one last big question to think about. If these are the filters that decide who even gets through the door, what happens then? How do those same pressures keep shaping how they act, what they prioritize, and the decisions they make once they're actually in power? Something to think about.